"You killed Jesus." It is widely and baselessly believed that the crucifixion of Jesus was demanded by city authorities and the Jewish mob in Jerusalem. Earlier this month, at a basketball game between Boston's Catholic Memorial School and the largely Jewish Newton South High, the Catholic students demonstrated their belief in this false notion, chanting, "You killed Jesus," at the opposing team. President Peter Fallon of Catholic Memorial condemned his students' behavior, incorrectly referring to it as intolerance. However, it was not a statement against the religion of Judaism. Rather, the Catholic students were lumping their Jewish opponents in with other Jews who had allegedly committed a crime, a textbook case of racism. Imagine chanted accusations against African American students for the crimes of the Black Panthers. Practically defending the racists, Newton Superintendent David Fleischerman promised to lecture his own students about engaging in offensive chants, as though sausage jokes about an all-boy Catholic school justified their slur. Although the chanters were required to apologize personally to Mr. Fleischman, it is doubtful that they stopped believing what they had been taught their entire lives simply because they had gotten in trouble. It's likely that when they got home, many of them were scolded not for their racism, but for displaying it in public. Muslims are blasphemers too. In yet another example of the inexplicable priorities of the religious, Egyptian Justice Minister Ahmed El-Zind has been fired over his shocking statement of equality before the law, saying he would jail any wrongdoer even if he were the prophet himself, peace be upon him. Or maybe he said even if he were a prophet. Reports of his statement vary. His comments, whatever they were, set the Twitterverse ablaze as outraged, self-appointed Muslim blasphemy police called for El-Zind himself to be tried for his misconduct. Later, presenting his interpretation of Islam to his more devout co-religionist, El-Zind explained that God holds humans culpable for what is done willfully, requesting God's forgiveness for what El-Zind referred to as a slip of the tongue, perhaps a veiled request for the Muslim community's forgiveness. In contrast, there was no Muslim outcry over comments made by El-Zind earlier this year concerning his call for the slaughter of the Muslim Brotherhood. In a televised interview, El-Zind demonstrated that justice ministers have no need for mass skills, wishing for the deaths of 400,000 Muslim brothers, then later saying that he would not be satisfied until 10,000 Brotherhood members were killed for every martyr. Martyr referring to the armed forces and the police whose lives have been extinguished in Brotherhood attacks. Great White Establishment Clause. Widely unknown in the United States, there is a sovereign territory to the north, a quaint place called Canada, which has its own government, its own laws, and even its own constitution. Conspicuously absent from this document is an Establishment Clause. Although Canada's founders don't seem to have consulted America's enlightened fathers over the years, Canada has, fitfully, come around to the American way. Earlier last month, observing the erosion of America's wall of separation, former Member of Parliament John Malloy suggested that Canada take the next step towards catching up. Says Malloy, "I would welcome it if candidates came forward and talked about how their faith perspective inspires the policy positions they take. It would be a handy guide for voters. In a political system where all the candidates seem the same, all proposing solved problems and lower taxes, Malloy wishes to allay the fears of those who prefer the wall to remain standing, calling for an injection of faith in a non-frightening way." Unfortunately, Malloy, assistant professor of public ethics at the Waterloo Lutheran Seminary, provides no practical advice on how to make the collision of religion and government non-frightening.